The last thing Willow Ashburn expected was to find herself careening down a snow-slicked mountain road with a duffel bag full of broken dreams and no place to go. Her fingers clenched tighter on the steering wheel as sleet lashed across the windshield. The wipers screeched, barely keeping up with the icy downpour, and her heart pounded with the same chaotic rhythm as the wind battering her old Honda Civic. The radio had long since gone silent, nothing but static whispering in the silence that wrapped around her like a curse. She shouldn't have left, but she couldn't stay. Her fiancé, Devin Maddox, the man her father had promised her to, had revealed his true self the night before the wedding. The kind of man who smiled in front of her father's powerful friends but wore his rage like armor behind closed doors. That final bruise on her arm, hidden under her sweater, was the last one she'd ever let him give her, and so she drove. Into the storm, into the unknown. The pine trees thickened on either side of the road, blackened silhouettes stretching tall and solemn against the moonless sky. Her GPS flickered, lost connection, and finally went dark as she crossed an unmarked turnoff deeper into the woods. Shit, Willow muttered, heart racing faster now. Where the hell am I? She was somewhere in the northern ranges. She didn't even know the name of the town. Just a red circle on a map she'd found in an old gas station in our back. A place no one would think to look for her. A loud crack echoed through the forest, a branch snapping. No, closer, more primal. She hit the brakes instinctively, and the car skidded sideways, tires screeching on the icy blacktop before she jerked to a stop inches from a steep embankment. Willow gasped, chest heaving, her breath fogging up the glass. Then, a blur of motion. Someone leapt into the road just ahead. She barely registered the shape before the impact. Thud, a flash of dark fur. Amber eyes that glowed for a split second like embers in the storm. Then it was gone, tumbling into the snow-drenched woods. Oh my God, she whispered, yanking open the door and stepping out into the cold. The snow fell in curtains now, and the cold bit into her skin immediately. But Willow didn't care. She stumbled down the shallow slope beside the road, boots slipping in the slush, scanning the trees with frantic eyes. Hello? She called out. Is someone there? Are you hurt? No response. Just the eerie whisper of wind and branches overhead. Then she saw it, a trail of blood in the snow, fresh, deep crimson against the white. And lying beside a fallen tree, half shadowed by the storm, was a wolf, huge, dark-furred. Its flank heaved, with labored breathing, and one leg was bent at an unnatural angle. Its eyes, those same burning amber eyes, fixed on her. She froze, her breath caught in her throat. He didn't growl, didn't move, just watched her. Like he recognized her, Willow inched forward despite every instinct screaming for her to run. You're hurt, she whispered, crouching carefully a few feet away. I didn't see you, I didn't mean to hit you. The wolf didn't flinch. But something shimmered in the air around him, a strange ripple that made the hair on her arms stand up. She blinked. It was gone. Thunder rolled in the distance. Lightning flashed, and for a split second, she thought no, imagined she saw a human silhouette lying there instead. A man. She shook her head. I'm losing it. But when she looked again, the wolf was gone. In his place, sprawled awkwardly in the snow, was a man, naked, bleeding, muscular, unconscious. Willow stumbled back with a strangled gasp, heart hammering in her chest. He was tall, his skin flushed pale from the cold, chest heaving with shallow breaths. His dark hair clung to his forehead, matted with blood, and the same amber glow flickered behind his eyelids before they fluttered closed. Panic warred with reason. But she couldn't just leave him here. Okay, she breathed, voice shaking. Okay, this is crazy, but you need help. She ran back to the car, grabbing the blanket from her back seat, then hurried down again to wrap it around his shoulders. Somehow, she managed to haul him to his feet, half dragging, half supporting his weight as they staggered up the incline. You're heavy as hell, she muttered through gritted teeth. But you better not die in my car. She got him into the passenger seat, cranked the heat, and drove. The first cabin she found was abandoned, more of a hunting shack really, but it had a fireplace and a dry roof. She laid him on the tattered sofa and lit a fire with shaking hands, her mind racing. Who the hell was he? And more importantly, why did he turn into a man? She sat across from him, watching as the firelight flickered across his still form. He hadn't stirred since the road, but his breathing had stabilized, and then he spoke, barely a whisper, but unmistakable. You shouldn't have brought me here. Willow froze. His eyes were open now, amber, intense, like they could see through her soul. I didn't know what else to do, she said quietly. You were dying. His gaze darkened. You have no idea what you've done. And then he passed out again. Willow sat there, stunned, staring at the fire. Snow howled outside, and her life, once tethered to a cruel engagement and a predictable future, had just veered wildly off course. She'd saved a stranger, a man who wasn't entirely human, and something told her this was only the beginning. When Willow woke, it was still dark. The fire had burned low, casting red-orange shadows across the broken cabin floorboards. The storm outside had lessened to a quiet hiss of wind brushing snow against the windows. For a moment, she wasn't sure where she was. Then her eyes landed on the man lying on the sofa, bare-chested, covered by the tattered wool blanket she'd wrapped around him, and still very much unconscious, except he wasn't. He was watching her. His amber eyes were open now, sharp and alert, following her every move as if he was waiting for her to make a mistake. Willow sat up slowly, pulling her knees to her chest on the threadbare rug in front of the fireplace. You're awake. No response. Just that same intense stare. You were dying, she added, gesturing at the blood-soaked bandage she'd hastily wrapped around his ribs. I didn't know what you were, or what happened to you out there. I just couldn't leave you. He said nothing, his jaw locked tight. The quiet between them stretched, thick with unspoken questions. Finally, he broke the silence, voice low and rough. You shouldn't have helped me. You said that last night too, Willow said softly, trying to meet his guarded gaze. Why? He sat up with a groan, wincing as his muscles protested. Because now you're involved, and if they find you, you won't get a chance to ask why. They? Willow's stomach dropped. Who's they? And who the hell are you? He hesitated. The fire popped between them. I'm Cale, he said at last, his voice edged with weariness. And I didn't mean for you to see any of this. Willow tilted her head slowly. What did I see? Cale's eyes flickered, unreadable. What do you think you saw? Willow swallowed. I hit a wolf. Then I turned around, and there was a man bleeding in the snow. You. He didn't react, just watched her, assessing, measuring. She continued, and I'm not stupid. You were the wolf. Somehow, I know what I saw, even if it doesn't make sense. Cale's lips pressed into a thin line, as if deciding something deeply dangerous. You're not wrong, he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. But you'd be safer if you were. The air in the room shifted. That was it. Confirmation. Willow's breath caught in her throat. So, what are you? She asked, heart pounding. A werewolf? Cale's jaw tensed at the word. We don't use that term, but yes, I'm a shifter. Willow blinked, trying to steady the tremble in her hands. That's not real. It's fantasy, fiction. He gave her a bitter smile. So's the life you thought you had. Those words hit harder than she expected. She looked down, remembering the bruises she still hid beneath her sleeves, the weight of a future that had never really been hers. Touch. He shifted on the couch, the blanket slipping to reveal the sharp line of his collarbone and the long, pale scar that curved down his side. Not the kind of wound one got from just wild animals, so Willow asked, clearing her throat. Is this where you tell me I've seen too much, and now you have to kill me? Cale snorted. If I wanted you dead, you wouldn't have made it out of the forest. Comforting. But I don't hurt people who save my life, he added after a pause. Good to know. She glanced at his leg. And that leg? Not broken, just dislocated. I popped it back in while you were out. Willow cringed. That's horrifying. He smirked faintly, and for the first time, something like warmth flickered in his expression. It was. She stood up, brushing off her jeans. There's a town about 10 miles back. If you want me to take you to a hospital, no hospitals. Cale cut in quickly, voice sharp. She raised an eyebrow. Why not? Because people like me don't show up on normal records. And because the second I check in, the Maddox pack will find me. Willow froze. Maddox? Her throat went dry. Did you just say Maddox? Cale looked at her, then really looked. Yeah, why? My fianc. Ex-fianc. Her voice cracked. Devin Maddox. Cale's expression hardened instantly. All traces of faint humor vanished. You're his? I was supposed to marry him this week, she whispered. But I ran. Something dangerous flickered in Cale's eyes. He stood slowly, the blanket clutched around his waist like a makeshift robe. You have no idea who you were about to marry. I'm starting to get the feeling. He crossed the room into strides, suddenly looming over her, his presence a storm of heat and tension. You're lucky you got out. That pack would have chewed you up from the inside. I think I already knew that, she whispered, breath catching. He stared down at her for a long, charged moment, something unreadable simmering in his gaze. Then he stepped back. If you stay with me, you'll be hunted too. By them. Especially if they find out we've crossed paths. Willow shook her head. I'm already hunted. Devon's probably looking for me. And after last night, I don't think I have anywhere else to go. Kale's voice dropped, rough and reluctant. Then you stay. Just for now. Thank you. But you listen, he added, tone firm. This world isn't kind to outsiders. And if you get too close to it, there's no going back. Willow looked up at him, this broken, fierce man, who had every reason to push her away but hadn't. Maybe I'm already too close. Cale didn't answer, but his eyes said everything. Whatever had drawn them together last night in the storm. It wasn't over. Something ancient had shifted, and neither of them would be the same again. The morning sun barely pierced the heavy veil of pine needles and snow beyond the cabin window. A dull gray light filtered in, casting long shadows across the wooden walls. The fire had burned down to embers, and the small space was quiet save for the crackle of dying heat and the occasional pop of pine sap. Willow stirred from where she'd dozed on the armchair, her limbs stiff and cold. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she remembered the man, the shifter, sleeping across from her on the couch. Cale. But the couch was empty. She sat up straight, heart already racing. Cale, a low thud came from outside. Willow jumped to her feet, rushing to the door and throwing it open. Cale was shirtless in the snow. Steam rose from his bare skin as he knelt beside a frozen stream behind the cabin, washing blood from his arms. A jagged wound along his ribs was already closing, knitting together before her eyes. It was impossible, but it was real. Willow stepped onto the porch, the icy wood stinging her bare feet. You should be inside. He didn't look at her. I heal faster in the cold. That makes no sense, she said, folding her arms over her chest. None of this does. You're not wrong. She stepped closer, wrapping her sweater tighter around her body. You're a shifter. You said that much. But what does that actually mean, Cale? Are you always like that? Do you change with the moon? Are there others like you? Like Devon? Cale looked up at her then, his amber gaze fierce beneath furrowed brows. You're asking too many questions for someone who just ran from a life she didn't understand. That's exactly why I'm asking, she shot back. Because everything I thought I knew has shattered in the last 24 hours. Because apparently, I was about to marry into a world I didn't even know existed. His jaw worked. And for a moment she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he sighed and stood. We shift when needed, he said quietly, not just with the moon. It's not as romantic as the stories make it sound. It's painful. Ripping your body apart and putting it back together never gets easier. Willow's eyes widened slightly. And Devon? He's one of you? Cale nodded. Not just one of us. He's the Alpha's heir. A chill ran down her spine that had nothing to do with the snow. Was that the only reason he wanted to marry me? She whispered. Because I was convenient? Human? Cale stepped closer, his voice low and steady. Human women are often chosen to mate with powerful shifters. It's political. Breeding bloodlines, alliances. You weren't a person to them, Willow. You were a tool. She swallowed hard, her hands curling into fists. I hate that I didn't see it. He tilted his head. You saw enough to run. She met his gaze, her voice barely audible. Why do you care? Cale blinked, as if the question caught him off guard. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. Something flickered in his eyes, uncertainty, maybe, or memory. I don't, he finally said. I just don't want your ignorance to get you killed. The words stung more than she expected. Well, that's charming. He turned away, shaking the water from his hands. Go inside before you freeze. Willow didn't move. You're hiding something. Cale's shoulders tensed. She continued. Carefully. You keep talking like you're not part of the Maddox pack anymore. Like you know too much, but you're not one of them. I'm not, he said flatly. Then what are you? He looked back at her, his expression unreadable. I'm the one they exiled. Willow blinked, stunned. For what? She asked, stepping down onto the snow despite the cold biting at her ankles. What did you do? Cale's voice was ice. I disobeyed an order. I saved someone who wasn't meant to be saved. They called it betrayal. Who? Cale looked away. Someone who paid the price for my mercy. The ache in his voice was unmistakable. Willow felt it in her bones, grief twisted into guilt, the kind that never left. I'm sorry, she said softly. I don't want your pity. It's not pity, she replied. It's understanding. He met her eyes again, and something in him shifted, softer, less guarded. Just for a moment. You shouldn't be here, Willow, he said. You were never meant to get pulled into this. Maybe I wasn't, she said, voice steady. But I am now. They stood there, snow falling softly around them, silence stretching between their breaths. The space between them was thick with unanswered questions and something else, something magnetic, dangerous, and fragile. Willow broke the silence. Do you want me gone? Cale hesitated. No, it wasn't a whisper. It was firm, unapologetic. But I don't want you dead either, he added, voice lower now. And staying with me could mean exactly that. Then teach me, Willow said suddenly. Cale blinked. Teach me how to survive this world, she said, stepping forward. If you think I'm already in danger, then help me not be helpless. You're human. So? He stared at her. For a long time, something unreadable brewing behind his eyes. You're stubborn. I've had to be, he sighed. Fine, I'll teach you. But only because if Devin finds you, he won't make the same mistake twice. Willow nodded. Then, let's start with the truth. All of it. Cale looked up at the trees, his jaw set tight. The truth, he said, isn't safe. She met his gaze, unwavering. Neither am I anymore, Chatgap said. Willow had never fired a gun, thrown a punch, or even raised her voice without flinching afterward, but by the third day in Cale's cabin, she'd already drawn blood his with the jagged edge of a broken training stick. Again, Cale grunted, ignoring the shallow cut on his forearm as he held out the wooden staff. His torso gleamed with sweat despite the crisp mountain air, his bare feet grounded in the snow-dusted earth like he was born of it. You're bleeding, Willow panted, shaking out her aching arms. I've bled worse, he muttered, already, circling her like a predator sizing up prey. Your stance is too narrow. You'll fall on your ass the second someone lunges. Willow gritted her teeth and reset her feet, bracing against the frozen ground. Her muscles trembled from fatigue, but her resolve had only sharpened. I'm not going to break. I know, he said. That's the problem. The problem. She narrowed her eyes, not sure whether it was a compliment or another reminder that he didn't want her too close. Since the morning she'd seen him shift back from wolf to man, every hour in Cale's presence had felt like navigating a glacier with cracks beneath the surface, thin, dangerous, and full of depth she didn't understand. He was training her now, reluctantly at first, but with growing precision and intensity. It wasn't just about fighting. It was about reading movement, listening with more than ears, feeling vibrations in the earth, catching scents on the wind. The first time she'd caught his scent on instinct, he'd stared at her like she was something unexpected, something unnatural. You're adapting too quickly, he'd said, almost suspiciously. But she didn't understand how or why. She just felt it, as if some part of her had been dormant waiting. And it wasn't just the training. It was the way she started waking before dawn, already aware of where Cale was in the cabin. The way her heartbeat changed when he looked at her for too long, or the way her own body betrayed her fear was something far more dangerous. Longing. That evening, after training, Cale sat on the porch sharpening his knife, while Willow curled beside the fire. A blanket draped over her legs and a half-full journal in her lap. You've got that look again, he said without glancing at her. What look? The one that says you're going to ask something I won't want to answer. Willow smiled. Faintly. You don't know that. I do. She stared at the flames, chewing her lower lip. You said you saved someone once. Someone you weren't supposed to. Cale's hand paused mid-stroke on the whetstone. The air between them shifted. Willow continued carefully. Was it someone like me? Cale exhaled slowly, the sound laced with memory. Her name was Rhea. She was human, like you. What happened to her? She died. Willow's throat tightened. Because of you? No, he said, standing and walking inside, setting the knife down on the mantel. Because of them. The pack. My brother. She blinked. Devin? No, Cale said. I have another brother. Older. His name is Maddox too. He was the true heir. Devin's just the next in line. Willow processed that in silence. I saved Rhea from a sanctioned hunt, Cale said after a moment. She'd stumbled into our land during a blood moon. The others thought she was a spy for the rival clan. Maddox ordered her killed on sight. I disagreed. You turned against your pack? I turned against monsters. His voice trembled with restrained fury. I took her and ran. Hid her in the same forest you found me in. What happened? Kale stared into the fire. She was caught a week later. I surrendered myself in exchange for her life. They killed her anyway. Left her body on the border. Willow covered her mouth, eyes stinging. I'm so sorry. Kale shrugged, but the motion was hollow. That was years ago, but it cost me everything: my name, my place, my blood. I've been rogue ever since. Rogue, the word sounded like exile wrapped in scars. You blame yourself, she said softly. Kale looked at her then, his eyes haunted. Because I failed her. You were the only one who didn't. Silence fell again, but it wasn't cold. It was heavy with shared grief, with the kind of understanding that only came from broken things recognizing one another. Kale sat on the floor beside her, close but not touching. You asked me why I cared if Devin had you, he said quietly. The truth is, I didn't. At first, Willow turned toward him, but the second I smelled him on you, his mark, his claim, it made my wolf rage. Not because I wanted to protect some stranger, but because I recognized something. Her heart pounded in her chest. What did you recognize? He met her gaze, and for once, there was no wall behind it. You, he whispered. Willow couldn't breathe. Kale looked away then, eyes shuddering. I didn't want this. Fate doesn't ask what we want. It just binds. Fate. Willow's mouth went dry. You mean, like fated mates? Kale didn't answer. You feel it too, she said, voice barely audible. Don't you? He stood abruptly, pacing to the edge of the room, fists clenched. It doesn't matter what I feel, he said hoarsely. I can't give you a future. Not like this. Not with who's hunting us. I didn't ask for a future, she replied, standing. I asked for truth. And you keep pushing me away like that's protection. But it's not. It's just loneliness. Dressed in armor, Kale turned back to her, and this time, he didn't mask the torment in his expression. You don't know what it's like. When the bond hits, when your wolf chooses. It's not romantic, it's brutal, consuming. It turns every thought into instinct, every instinct into obsession. Willow stepped closer. I think I already feel it. He froze. She reached out, hesitated, then placed her hand against his chest, right over his heart. I feel it when you're near. I feel it when you pull away, like something tearing inside me, like I'm not whole unless. Kale let out a shuddering breath. Don't. You're not protecting me by running from it. Kale, you're just hurting both of us. His hands came up slowly, trembling, until they cupped her face. His touch was gentle, reverent, as if she were sacred and forbidden all at once. You don't know what you're inviting, he whispered. I know, she whispered back. And I'm still here. For a moment, neither moved. Then Kale leaned in, resting his forehead against hers. Their breaths mingled in the silence, warm and raw. I've been alone for so long, he murmured. Me too. They stood like that, together, but not yet entwined, two broken souls caught in the gravitational pull of something ancient and cosmic. Outside, snow fell softly. Inside, trust began to bloom in the shadows. The first sign came with the birds. One moment, the forest was alive with the rustling of wings and distant calls from deep in the pines, and the next silence, an unnatural, suffocating stillness. Willow stood at the edge of the clearing with her fingers curled around the training staff Kale had carved for her. The cold air nipped at her cheeks, but it wasn't the chill that raised goosebumps on her skin. It was instinct. Something was watching. Kale stepped out of the cabin, eyes narrowing as they scanned the tree line. He hadn't shifted, but his movements were sharper, too fluid to be human. His wolf was near the surface. You feel that too? Willow asked quietly. He nodded once, jaw tight. Something's wrong. Another animal? No, he muttered, eyes glowing faintly. Something worse. A sudden howl shattered the silence, long, shrill, and too close. Willow's breath caught. Kale didn't hesitate. He grabbed her wrist and yanked her toward the cabin. Inside, now. They barely made it through the doorway when the second howl came, deeper and layered with something warped, twisted. It echoed in her bones, ancient and wrong. That's not Devin, she said, heart pounding. No, Kale agreed. That's a shadow beast. A corrupted shifter. Her blood ran cold. What the hell is that? Kale shut the door and grabbed the shotgun from above the fireplace. They're born when a shifter loses control of their wolf for too long. Rage, grief, bloodlust, it twists them, turns them feral. And this one's hunting. For you? Kale hesitated. Or you? Willow stared. Why me? Because you're mine, he said without thinking, then quickly added, because you helped me, and now they smell me on you. Willow's head spun. This is about the mate bond, isn't it? He gave her a sharp glance. It doesn't matter right now. It matters to me, she said, stepping in front of him. You said a bond like that makes you a target. I need to know why. Kale exhaled through his nose, tense. Because not all shifters believe in fate anymore. Some think the old bloodlines should stay pure. Humans like you, especially mated to someone like me, threaten that. She blinked. Because I'm not one of you. Because you might be. Willow's heart skipped. What? Kale looked away. I didn't want to say anything until I was sure. But the way you're adapting, sensing, moving, it's not normal, even for a bonded mate. Willow's throat went dry. You think I'm part shifter? Maybe, he said. Maybe someone in your family was. Long ago. A dormant bloodline. A crashing sound outside made them both whirl toward the window. Something huge moved between the trees, dark and fast, circling. We'll talk about it later, Kale said. Right now, we need to survive. He handed her a silver dagger. Silver slows them. Aim for the heart, the spine, or the eyes. Don't hesitate. Willow took the blade, her fingers trembling. I've never. You will. Kale interrupted gently. Because you have to. Another crash. This time closer. Kale stepped toward the door, shoulders rolling back, muscles tensing. I need to draw it away from you. Give you a head start. No, Willow said immediately. You're not doing this alone. Willow, I don't care what I am, or how much danger this puts me in. I'm not running from this. He looked at her for a long moment, something fierce and unspoken in his eyes. Then he nodded once. Then we fight together. The forest exploded into chaos the moment they stepped outside. The beast launched from the trees in a blur of black fur and smoke. It was twice the size of any wolf Willow had ever seen, grotesque and hunched, its snout twisted and mouth dripping with dark saliva. Its eyes burned red like dying coals. Kale shifted mid-air, bones snapping, fur erupting across his body before slamming into the beast in a tangle of claws and teeth. Willow dove to the side, heart thundering, her blade clutched in one hand. The two creatures rolled across the snowy clearing, snarling and slashing. Blood sprayed across the frost, some red, some inky black. The shadow beast roared, raking its claws across Kale's side. He yelped, stumbling back. No. Willow screamed. She ran toward them without thinking, ducking under a flailing limb and driving her blade deep into the creature's side. It howled, twisting toward her with fangs bared, but Kale lunged from behind, biting down hard on its exposed throat. They hit the ground with a sickening crunch. Silence. Willow stood over them, panting. Her blade dripped with black blood. Kale rose slowly from the beast's twitching corpse, blood coating his fur, breath ragged. Then he shifted, bones breaking, fur retreating until he stood before her, naked and gasping, a deep gash across his ribs. You're insane, he rasped. You could have been killed. So could you, she said, tears brimming. I wasn't going to lose you too. Kale stared at her, chest rising and falling. You were brave, he said hoarsely. Stupid, but brave. Willow shook her head, stepping closer. You said I might be part shifter, but what if it's more than that? What if this was meant to happen? I don't believe in fate, Kale murmured. But your wolf does, she whispered. He looked at her, then really looked, and for the first time, she saw it. The fear behind his eyes, not of the beast they'd just killed, but of her, and whatever she might become. The forest lay still in the aftermath. Blood stained the snow, dark and steaming, a brutal reminder of what had almost been lost. Kale stood silently at the edge of the clearing, freshly clothed, his torn shirt clinging to a healing wound that would have killed a human. But Willow didn't look at the gash on his side. Her eyes were fixed on the body of the creature they'd killed. No, he had killed, with her help. Its form was already beginning to deteriorate, melting into sludge, evaporating in oily wisps. As the curse that corrupted it dissolved. You said that was a shifter once, she murmured. How does that even happen? Kale didn't answer at first. His jaw was clenched tight, fists by his sides. Rage, abandonment, pain without anchor. When a wolf has no pack and no purpose, it turns on itself, becomes something darker, something hollow. Willow shivered. They're not born, Willow, he added. They're made. She turned toward him, clutching the silver dagger tighter in her palm. Then what does that say about you? Kale met her gaze sharply. You said you were exiled, she continued. That you've been alone, that you've killed. What's stopping you from becoming one of them? His eyes darkened, but there was no anger in them. Just sadness. You, he said softly. Willow felt the weight of the word like a blow to the chest. A long silence stretched between them, pierced only by the whisper of wind in the trees. Then Cale nodded toward the cabin. We need to talk. Back. Inside. The fire crackled again. The storm had passed, and weak daylight filtered through the grimy windows. Willow wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, still in shock from the fight, from what Cale had said outside. But she needed more than fragments. She needed answers. Cale sat across from her on the floor, legs stretched out, wounds still knitting beneath his skin. I didn't want to believe it, he said finally, but after today, I don't think I can ignore it anymore. Willow leaned in. Ignore what? He reached into a pack near the hearth and pulled out something wrapped in faded leather, an old book. He handed it to her, eyes heavy. What is this? It's a bloodline register. Every known shifter family from the last 200 years. My mother kept it before she died. Willow opened the brittle cover, flipping slowly through page after page filled with names, drawn sigils, and symbols she didn't understand. Most of these bloodlines are extinct now, Cale said. Killed off in wars, hunted, or folded into stronger packs. Willow stopped on a name she recognized immediately. Ashburn. Her breath caught. That's my name. I know, Cale said, voice low. I didn't make the connection at first. It's not a common family, but it's in the register. Barely mentioned. But there. She stared at the entry. No dates, no notes. Just the name and a mark beside it, a crescent moon, etched in silver ink. What does the moon mean? She asked. Cale hesitated. It's the mark of the moonbound line, a bloodline that once carried hybrid strength, human and shifter, intertwined. They were rare and dangerous. Willow looked up slowly. You're saying my family was part shifter? Not just part, he said. Your bloodline is old, older than even the Maddox line. You're not just some lost human caught in the wrong world. You belong to it. The fire snapped between them. Willow felt her whole reality tilt sideways. But I've never shifted, she whispered. I've never even felt you've felt everything. Cale cut in. You wake before I do. You track sound better than a trained hunter. You fought that beast today like someone who knows how to kill. She swallowed hard. That's not enough proof. Cale reached into the fire with his bare hand and pulled out a coal, still glowing red. He dropped it into her palm before she could react. Willow gasped, but not from pain. It didn't burn. The heat bloomed against her skin, warm but not scalding. Her fingers curled around it instinctively, her pulse sinking with the ember's faint glow. She dropped it with a shaky breath, heart racing. Cale watched her like she was becoming something new right in front of him. You've inherited resistance. It's the first sign. Your body's preparing for a shift. No, she whispered, standing abruptly. No, this can't be real. You wanted the truth, Cale said calmly. This is it. She paced away from the fire, trembling. All this time, I thought I was just nothing, just human, powerless, weak, the girl Devon could own. But you're telling me, I'm telling you, he said gently, that you were never powerless. Tears burned her eyes, but she forced them back. So what happens now? I grow fur and fangs and wake up howling at the moon? Cale stood slowly, approaching her with careful steps. Not unless you accept the bond. She turned sharply. What bond? He stopped just inches from her. The one between us. Willow's breath caught. The moment I smelled you in the forest, I knew something was different, Cale said, voice hoarse. But when you touched me, when your heartbeat synced with mine during the hunt, I felt it. The mate bond. And it's not just instinct. Then what is it? She asked. Cale took her hand, placing it flat against his chest. His heartbeat steady beneath her palm. It's a soul call, he whispered, one that connects us beyond blood, beyond reason. It means our wolves chose each other before we even met. She wanted to pull away. She couldn't, because deep inside her chest, something stirred in response. Something ancient, something wild. Willow looked up at him, her voice breaking. What if I don't want this? His expression didn't waver. Then I won't force it. The bond only holds if it's accepted by both sides. Her vision blurred with tears she didn't understand. I don't know who I am anymore. Cale leaned in, forehead brushing against hers. Then let me help you find her, he murmured. The real you, the one who's been hiding. She didn't respond with words. She couldn't. because deep inside her, something was already beginning to shift, not her body, her soul. The forest was no longer just a stretch of trees and silence. Now it breathed with a pulse of warning, thick with shadows that watched and waited. Kale's steps were purposeful, boots crunching lightly through the snow as he led Willow deeper into the mountain trails, away from the remnants of the broken cabin. His senses were heightened, sharper than ever. Every snap of a twig or flutter of wings made him pause, scent the air, and subtly shift his stance to shield Willow. They weren't alone anymore. Willow glanced back toward the path they'd abandoned, still dazed by the revelations of the night before. Her bloodline, her resistance, the fact that a wolf lived inside her sleeping, yes, but not dead, and the bond. It pulsed like a second heartbeat beneath her skin, drawn to Kale like gravity to a star. How much farther? She asked, breath clouding in front of her as the morning grew colder. There's an old way station about 2 miles north, Kale replied without turning. Neutral ground. The Maddox pack can't breach it unless we give them reason. Willow's stomach dropped. The Maddox pack. That's your brother's. Kale's shoulders tensed, but he nodded. Devon's the alpha now. After our father passed, the title passed to him by right. I was exiled before the shift in leadership. She blinked at him. Why were you exiled? Kale didn't answer immediately. Because I didn't want to mate with the girl the council had chosen for me. I refused. Willow frowned. That's it? No, his voice hardened. I refused. And then I killed the one who tried to take her by force. She was a rogue, barely 18. They blamed me for disrupting an alliance. Willow's chest tightened. So they banished you to protect politics. Yes. And Devon didn't stop them. The bitterness in his tone was unmistakable. Willow turned her attention back to the woods. And now they're coming after me. Why? Kale stopped, turning to face her. His jaw was set, and there was pain in his eyes. Because when you helped kill that shadow beast, your scent changed. Your wolf stirred. And that means one thing. Willow's breath caught. They know I exist. Kale nodded. And worse, they'll know what you are. A moonbound heir. The ancient bloodline. The symbol in the book. The silver crescent that once ruled over pack alliances. They'll want to use me, won't they? She asked. They'll want to own you, he corrected. The Maddox are power hungry. If Devon senses what you carry in your blood, he'll force a bond. He'll mark you, claim you, and use your lineage to restore his claim to dominance over all territories. Willow felt sick. But I'm human. Kale's expression turned soft, almost regretful. Not anymore. A howl cut through the air, sharp, echoing. Too close. Kale froze, then grabbed her hand. Run. They raced through the pines, darting between ancient trees and rocky outcrops. The snow was lighter here, and Willow's boots skidded on the frost, but Kale held her upright. The howl had come from the south. Another answered from the east. They're flanking, Kale hissed, scanning the canopy. They've been tracking us longer than I thought. Willow's heart pounded. What do? We find the way station. Once we cross the border stone, they can't touch us. How do they know I'm moonbound? You said I haven't even shifted. Doesn't matter. Blood calls to blood. You carry the old mark in your scent now. He glanced at her. And you carry mine. Willow blinked. Because of the bond? Kale gave a single nod. Another howl, this time closer, thunderous and commanding. That one wasn't a scout. That's him. Kale growled, voice thickening, darkening. Devon. The forest exploded with movement. A massive wolf lunged from the right, gray and lean, with gleaming red eyes. Kale didn't hesitate. He shifted mid-stride, bones snapping and fur exploding across his skin. In seconds, the man was gone, and in his place stood a wolf twice the size of a normal predator, black as night, his eyes burning silver. He tackled the intruder midair, fangs sinking into its throat. Willow stumbled back, her blood roaring in her ears. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The fight was brutal, fast, inhuman. Kale tore into the other wolf with savage precision, forcing it down, breaking bone and tendon before flinging it into a tree. The wolf yelped and vanished into the trees, retreating with its tail between its legs. Kale turned to her, shifting again, half-clothed and panting. Blood streaked his arm. You okay? Willow could barely nod. We need to keep moving. They pushed forward, breaking through thickets and weaving around boulders until they reached a small clearing, centered around a flat stone etched with glowing runes. A faint shimmer surrounded it, like a bubble of air caught in a snow globe. The threshold. Kale breathed. Step over it. Now. Willow obeyed. The moment she crossed the stone, the air around her grew warmer. The pressure in her chest lifted. She gasped, realizing she hadn't truly exhaled since the first howl. Kale stepped through seconds later, and silence fell, a heavy, unnatural silence. They won't follow here, he assured her. This is sacred ground, a place of old neutrality. Not even Devon can break the laws that bind it. Willow turned to him slowly. So what now? We hide? Run forever? Kale shook his head. No, we prepare. Your awakening is coming faster than I thought. That fight, the blood, the pull of the hunt, it's all accelerating the shift. She swallowed. And when it comes, will it hurt? He met her eyes, his voice low and honest. Yes, the first shift always does. Willow closed her eyes, a tremor running through her. She had faced abandonment, betrayal, fear. But this was something deeper, a battle with herself, a breaking open, a birth of something primal. But when she looked at Kale again, standing there, bloody, fierce, and silent beside her, she didn't feel quite so afraid, because somewhere inside her, something had stopped resisting, something had begun to stir. The moon hung low, veiled by drifting clouds that glowed with eerie silver light. The way station was quiet to quiet. Despite its protection, Willow couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Kale was outside, sharpening a blade beside a dying campfire. His wolf ears twitched at every noise, his body taut like a coiled spring. He hadn't spoken much since the fight. Willow knew it wasn't because he was angry, he was worried. And so was she. Inside the shelter, a narrow cabin built into the hillside, Willow sat beside the hearth, flipping through the old book Kale had handed her earlier. Bound in dark leather, it smelled like ashes and age. She traced her finger along a faded symbol, a crescent moon wrapped in thorns, the moon-bound crest, the ancient bloodline Kale claimed she belonged to. There were sketches of rituals, markings of mates, and warnings, so many warnings. Pages devoted to the dangers of breaking soul bonds, of resisting the first shift, of blood curses passed down through generations. A line near the bottom of one page made her stomach turn. If the moonbound fails to bond willingly, her wolf will devour her from within. She shut the book, breath trembling. Was that what Kale feared most? That the wolf inside her would rise too late or too violently? The wooden door creaked open, and Kale stepped inside. His eyes flicked to her face instantly. You read it, he said softly. Willow nodded. So, if I don't bond, I'll die? No, he sat beside her, close but not touching. Not instantly, not even certainly. But your wolf is ancient. She won't sleep forever. And when she wakes, if you're not ready, if your spirit hasn't accepted her, she'll rip me apart. Willow finished for him. Silence. Only the popping of firewood between them. She finally whispered, Why me, Kale? Why did the bond choose me? His jaw clenched. I don't know. Fate doesn't explain itself. It doesn't ask permission. That's not good enough, she said, voice cracking. I was supposed to marry someone else. I was living a human life, safe, predictable. Now I'm being hunted, marked, and dragged into this world where everything depends on instincts I don't even have yet. Kale looked pained. Do you regret meeting me? She wanted to say no. She wanted to reach for him, tell him how many nights she'd felt more alive than ever in his presence. But another thought pulled her back. She stood and walked to the window, staring into the night. Kale, she asked cautiously, you said you were exiled for protecting someone, a rogue. His silence said enough. You said she was the one they tried to force on you, Willow continued. But you never said what happened to her. Did she survive? Kale's voice was like gravel. No, she turned to him, brows drawn. She was my first bond, he confessed. It wasn't complete, she was too young. The elders forced it too early, and she panicked. Tried to run. One of the council's enforcers chased her down. I got there too late. Willow felt her chest tighten. You killed him. Kale nodded slowly. And I would again. But the council blamed me for her death, said I broke sacred law. They declared me unfit to rule and gave the alpha seat to Devon. So this happened before you even met me, Willow said, her voice going soft. Before our bond, yes, she sat again, letting that truth settle. Kale had loved before, or tried to, and it ended in blood and exile. Before she could speak again, there was a knock, 3 quiet raps against the outer wall. Kale stood immediately, teeth bared. No one can cross that line. The knock came again. No aggression, just insistence. Willow followed him to the doorway. Kale opened it cautiously, blade in hand. and there he was, Devon, human-shaped, dressed in a black coat and boots, eyes glowing faint gold in the firelight. He was taller than Cale, leaner, with sharp features and a cold calmness that made Willow's skin crawl. Cale stepped forward, blocking her. "You can't enter," he growled. "I don't need to," Devon replied smoothly. "I only came to talk. Nothing you say matters." Devon's gaze slid past Cale to land on Willow. "Does she feel the same?" Willow didn't answer, frozen under the weight of his stare. "I know what you are, Willow," Devon said, his voice low and steady. "And I know what Cale hasn't told you." She frowned. "What hasn't he told me?" Cale's growl deepened. "Don't." Devon ignored him. "That the moonbound line doesn't just wake a wolf, it awakens others. There's a prophecy tied to your blood, a reuniting of packs, a reordering of dominance. If the wrong wolf bonds you, chaos follows." Willow stepped out from behind Cale, heart pounding. "And you think you're the right one?" Devon didn't smile. "I'm offering balance, peace. I can protect you. I have the council's support. The Maddox pack can ensure your safety, your shift, your future." Her stomach twisted. "And what do you want in return?" Devon's eyes never left hers. "You." Silence. Cale trembled with fury, one hand curling into a clawed fist. "I'm not a prize," Willow said sharply. Devon's mouth curved, but his gaze remained cool. "Know your power. And if Cale completes the bond, you'll both be hunted for the rest of your lives. I'm offering you a way out." Willow shook her head, voice breaking. "You're offering control, not choice." Devon's smile faded. "Think carefully, Willow. There's still time." And just like that, he turned and walked away, vanishing into the trees without a sound. Cale shut the door, leaning against it like the weight of the conversation crushed him. Willow backed away, trembling. "You didn't tell me," she whispered, "about the prophecy, about what I could cause." "I didn't want you to be afraid," Cale said. "You've already had everything torn from you. I didn't want to make it worse." Her hands balled at her sides. "But now I don't know who to trust. You, him. This bond, none of it feels real." Cale's voice cracked. "It is. Everything I've done has been to protect you, not manipulate you." Tears welled in her eyes. "Then why does it feel like I'm just being passed from one monster to another?" Cale didn't answer. He could end single quotes so Willow turned away, curling into the cot beside the fire, not looking at him, and for the first time since their fates had collided. Cale didn't follow. He sat in silence, staring into the dark, while the space between them grew heavier than it had ever been. The forest screamed with the fury of the storm, lightning danced across the sky like angry spirits set loose from the underworld, illuminating the skeletal branches of towering pines. Wind howled through the woods with a voice that seemed almost alive, and the rain fell in heavy sheets, drenching the earth and cloaking everything in wet shadow. The moon, what little of it could be seen, flickered between storm clouds like a watchful eye, casting a ghostly sheen across the darkened woods. Willow stood by the cracked window of Cale's cabin, heart hammering. She couldn't shake the tremor in her chest, the strange sensation that something terrible was about to unfold. Her breath fogged the glass. Thunder cracked again, this time closer. The storm was right above them. Cale had been gone too long. He'd said he needed air after their tense exchange earlier. After she'd admitted that something inside her, something primal, was changing. He hadn't said it out loud, but she'd seen the storm in his eyes too. The fear, the guilt. The bond was no longer just some mystical theory whispered between wolves. She could feel him now, like a second heartbeat echoing beneath her own. Then it happened. A howl, shredded, agonized, cut through the rain. It wasn't just any howl. It was Cale. Willow's body moved before her mind caught up. She ripped open the cabin door and plunged into the rain barefoot, not caring that the mud clung to her legs like glue or that branches clawed at her nightclothes. The forest opened before her like a dark mouth, swallowing her whole. "Cale," she shouted, heart racing. "Where are you?" The wind swallowed her voice. Another howl answered closer. It was laced with pain and fury. She darted down the narrow path toward the river, nearly slipping on the wet roots. Each breath burned her lungs. Panic and dread churned in her belly. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The trees thinned as she neared the riverbank, and that's when she saw them. Cale part shifted, caught between man and beast, stood at the edge of the raging river, blood pouring from a gash on his side. 3 wolves circled him, sleek and dark and unmistakably hostile. Their snarls rumbled low, their teeth bared, their eyes glowing with bloodlust. Pack assassins. Maddox's scouts. Her stomach dropped. Cale turned his head slightly toward her, his voice strained. Willow, run. But she didn't. Something primal rose inside her. The air thickened. Her vision sharpened. The world narrowed to Cale and the wolves trying to rip him apart. One lunged. Willow grabbed a thick branch from the forest floor and ran forward with a scream, swinging with all her strength. The branch collided with the wolf's skull in a sickening crack. It yelped and stumbled. Cale seized the opportunity to pounce, slamming the stunned wolf into the mud, but there were still two more. They turned toward Willow. She backed away, heart thundering, but then the pain struck, white hot, rolling through her spine like fire. She cried out, falling to her knees. Her vision pulsed silver, her limbs trembled, and deep inside, something moved, not her thoughts, not her fear, but another presence, one that had been slumbering for too long. Her wolf. Cale's eyes snapped to her. No, he whispered hoarsely, throat slick with blood. Not now, not like this. But she couldn't stop it. It wasn't a full shift. Not yet, just enough to feel her bones pulse, her nails elongate, her muscles twitch with supernatural instinct. She could hear everything, the wolves breathing, Cale's heartbeat, even the rushing river. The third wolf circled closer, fangs glinting. Cale staggered to his feet, barely able to stand. Blood streamed down his leg. Touch her, he growled, and I will end you. But the wolves didn't care. The one nearest Willow lunged and Cale threw himself in the way. They crashed together and tumbled down the slick riverbank, landing in the surging water below with a splash that drowned out Willow's scream. Cale. She scrambled toward the edge, slipping in the mud. Her fingers clawed for purchase, eyes scanning the churning water. Branches floated by, broken and twisted. No sign of Cale, no movement, just darkness and the roar of the river. No, no, no. She sobbed, then a shadow, a broken figure, crawling from the river's edge, his body trembling from the cold. Cale. She ran to him, slipping to her knees and pulling him into her arms. You idiot, she choked, tears mixing with rain. Why would you do that? You could have died. His breaths came in ragged gasps. Better me than you. His voice cracked. Willow cradled his face. He was burning up, shaking uncontrollably. You're bleeding, she whispered. I've bled worse. That's not the point, she snapped. You keep protecting me, but you never let me protect you. Cale flinched. I didn't want you dragged into this war, he said softly. Into me, but now, I don't think I can live without you. Her heart twisted. He wasn't just some brooding protector. He was a man who'd been punished for too long for secrets, for guilt, for love he thought he didn't deserve. I saw her, he whispered, voice thick with awe. Your wolf. She came to the surface for me. Willow hesitated. I felt her. Like, she woke up when you were in danger. Cale nodded. That's the bond. It doesn't just connect us, it awakens us. You didn't force it. You answered it. The revelation hit like thunder in her chest. All this time, she'd believed the bond was an accident, a mistake, something that happened to her. But it was choice. Not hers alone, but her wolf's, her instincts, her soul. I don't want to run anymore, she whispered. Cale's eyes met hers, vulnerable and wide. You don't? He asked. She shook her head. I'm scared, still confused. But when you fell in that river, I realized I'd already made the choice. I'd rather face hell with you than peace without you. Cale's breath caught. His hand found hers in the mud, rough and trembling. Willow. She leaned in, pressing her forehead to his. Their connection pulsed warm and electric. The forest seemed to hold its breath. I don't fully understand what's happening to me, she said softly, but I know this. You're my anchor, and I think I'm yours. His voice trembled. You always have been. She pulled him close. No kiss passed between them. No vows. Just the silent thrum of two souls finally aligning under a silver washed sky. And somewhere, deep in the woods, the wind shifted. The hunters had been defeated for now, but something darker still lingered on the horizon. And this time, Willow would face it as herself. Not just a woman, not just a victim, but a wolf. The storm had passed by dawn. A pale mist lingered over the forest, curling like breath through the trees. Shafts of sunlight pierced the canopy, casting dappled gold onto the mossy floor. The river, once furious and violent, now hummed softly beside the bank where Cale and Willow sat in silence, their bodies close but not yet touching. Cale's injuries had mostly stopped bleeding, but bruises marred his ribs and shoulder. Willow had wrapped him in Kale's worn flannel jacket and guided him back to the cabin sometime before dawn, after the last of the hostile wolves had fled. Her hands had trembled as she cleaned his wounds, not from fear but from the weight of everything they hadn't said. Now, they sat side by side on the cabin's porch steps, watching the mist rise as if the forest itself was waking. "I can still hear you," Willow whispered, breaking the silence. "Even when you're not speaking." Kale didn't look at her. "That's the bond." She turned her head toward him. "No, I think it's more than that." Kale's eyes flicked to hers. "What do you mean?" "I mean, when you were in the river, I didn't just know you were in danger. I felt it. Like it was me drowning. Like every breath you lost was torn from my chest." Kale swallowed hard. "That's how it felt when I marked you." The words dropped between them like a stone in still water. Willow looked away. "And yet, you never asked me if I wanted the bond." Kale stiffened. "I know," he said quietly, "and I regret that. Every day." Silence stretched again, long and uneasy. The birds had begun to chirp in cautious notes, as though sensing the delicate truce between storm and sun. Between them. "I didn't understand it back then," Willow admitted. "I thought it was something you forced on me, that you made me feel things I couldn't control." She looked at him again, really looked at him. The way his jaw tightened when he was unsure. The way his wolf flickered behind his eyes like a half-kept secret. The way he was always pulling back like he feared breaking something too fragile to name. "But it wasn't you, was it?" she asked softly. "Not entirely." Kale's gaze held hers, raw and full of a quiet ache. "No, it was us." Willow's breath caught. He reached for her hand slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. "I thought I was protecting you," he said. "From Maddox, from my past, from myself. But all I did was lie to both of us." Willow's fingers curled around his. Kale's voice dropped. "You deserved a choice, and I took that from you." She leaned in closer. "Then give it back." He blinked. "What?" "Let me choose," she said, her voice steady now. "Let me claim this bond not because I have to, but because I want to." Kale looked stunned, like he hadn't even dared to hope she'd say those words. "Willow." His voice broke. She cupped his face. "I'm not that girl who ran from you in the woods. I'm not just my pain or my grief or even the questions I still don't have answers to. I'm me. And my wolf has woken and she's calling to yours." Kale's wolf surged beneath his skin, responding to her voice, her scent, her spirit. Their bond pulsed. He didn't rush. He brushed her hair back gently, letting his hand trail down her cheek as if memorizing her. "You sure?" She smiled gently, fiercely. "Yes." His lips found hers slowly, reverently. It wasn't the desperate kiss of two souls clinging to chaos. It was the steady surrender of two halves finally meeting whole. Her breath caught as his warmth spread into her, not just skin to skin but soul to soul. The mark on her shoulder flared, no longer a burn, but a beacon. The bond ignited. Magic surged through them like a river of moonlight. Willow gasped, clutching Kale's shoulders as her vision flooded silver. She saw flashes as memories now. A younger Kale kneeling beside his dying brother. Maddox's snarl in the blood-soaked forest. The moment he saw her across the glen before he ever touched her, before the bond sparked. He'd been drawn to her even then. "I didn't just mark you to protect you," Kale whispered against her mouth. "I did it because I knew on some level you were mine, and I was yours." Willow's heart surged with something ancient, something true. "I accept it," she whispered. "I accept you." The air thickened around them. Their wolves rose, neither fully shifted, but enough to cast spectral shapes in their eyes. The forest seemed to glow, trees leaning in like they bore witness to something sacred. Then Kale stood and extended a hand. Willow took it. He led her down into the clearing behind the cabin, where moonlight still clung to the wet grass like dew. The bond called for more than words now. It called for a ritual as old as the shifter bloodline itself. He bowed his head, and she did the same. Then, they shifted not into full wolves, but into their half-forms. Silver fur coiled along her arms, and Kale's voice echoed through their shared link. "From this day forward, I claim you not as property, but as equal, and I claim you," Willow answered, "as my mate not by force, but by fate, and by choice." Their bond flared, then sealed, the clearing filled with a low hum of power, ancient and beautiful. The runes etched into Kale's back shimmered faintly, no longer a mark of penance but of belonging. Willow pressed her palm to his chest. "You're not cursed, Kale. You're chosen." Tears shimmered in his eyes, but he didn't cry. He pulled her into his arms and held her beneath the thinning moonlight, their wolves resting at last in each other's presence, not as enemies, not as victims, but as mates. S1, and for the first time since it all began, Willow felt free. The moment their bond sealed beneath the moon, something shifted in the air, not just around Willow and Kale, but in the pulse of the earth itself. A silence settled over the forest, not the peaceful kind but the breathless hush before a storm. Kale felt it first. His body tensed, his senses flaring like an alarm inside his skin. Willow touched his arm. "What is it?" "Run," he whispered. Now. A low howl cracked through the trees, then another, then three more, closer this time. Willow's blood chilled. Kale was already shifting, his bones cracking, fur bursting forth as he leapt forward into his wolf form. A heartbeat later, she followed her own wolf, responding to his fear with blazing instinct. They moved as one, sprinting across the clearing, weaving between pines and fallen branches. Behind them, the forest exploded into chaos. Figures darted through the mist, wolves, but not like Kale. These were twisted, darker. Their forms shimmered unnaturally, magic oozing from their hides like oil. "Maddox," Kale growled through their bond. He brought the moonbound, shifters twisted by forbidden rituals, neither fully wolf nor man, enslaved to Maddox's bloodline, created to conquer, not to protect. Kale skidded to a halt atop a ridge overlooking the valley. Below, in the distance, Willow saw it, firelight flickering between the trees. The pack, his pack. Her eyes widened. "They're coming for them," she said. "Kale, we have to warn." A snarl cut her off. One of the moonbound launched from the shadows, striking Kale hard. He tumbled, shifted midair, and slammed into a boulder, leaving a smear of blood. Willow lunged before she could think. Her wolf rammed into the attacker's side with a ferocity that surprised even her. Bones cracked, but more were coming. "Go," Kale shouted, coughing. "Warn the pack. I'm not leaving you again, please." His voice broke through the bond, through the pain. Willow turned, not away from him but toward the threat. She sprinted through the trees, breath burning, magic pulsing under her skin like wildfire. The closer she got to the valley, the louder the roars and snarls became. The pack had already begun to fight, but they were outnumbered. Moonbound wolves tore through the defenses like smoke and shadow. The warriors of Kale's clan fought valiantly, but the corrupted blood magic of Maddox's army made them almost impossible to wound. Then a scream. Familiar. Female. Willow swerved and found Mira, Kale's second in command, pinned beneath a snarling beast. Without hesitation, Willow leapt, claws bared, and slashed across the creature's back. It shrieked and reared, giving Mira just enough time to roll free. "You shouldn't be here." Mira gasped. "I'm done hiding," Willow replied. "Where's Maddox?" Mira pointed toward the center fire circle, where a storm of dark mist swirled unnaturally. "He's conjuring the blood eclipse." Willow's heart stuttered. "The what?" "If he finishes it," Mira choked, "he'll break the mate bond. Laws. Every bond will burn. Every Luna will die. No, Kale." Willow bolted toward the storm. The trees thrashed in the unnatural wind. Her skin blistered with the proximity of dark magic, but she kept going. To the center, she saw him. Maddox. Still beautiful, still terrifying, cloaked in ceremonial armor lined with runes carved in bone. He stood over a stone altar, Kale's blood smeared across its surface, his hands raised to the sky where the moon had turned a sickly red. "You don't belong here," he snarled without turning. "This isn't your world." Willow stepped into the firelight. Her wolf flickered beneath her skin but didn't fully shift. "This world chose me," she said. "Your brother chose me." Maddox turned. For the first time, she saw the madness in his eyes. No regret, no grief, just hunger for power, for vengeance, for control. "You're nothing but a pawn," he spat. "He marked you to protect himself. You were never his equal." Willow lifted her chin. "I wasn't." She raised her palm. "But I am now." Magic burst from her core, raw, silver, moon-blessed. The bond between her and Kale surged through her blood, igniting every nerve. The spell circle at Maddox's feet cracked. His ritual faltered. "What are you doing?" he roared. "Ending this." Maddox lunged, but he wasn't fast enough. Kale appeared bloodied, limping, but alive. He crashed into his brother midair, tackling him into the flames. They rolled, claws tearing, teeth snapping. For a moment, Willow couldn't tell who was winning. Then Maddox pinned Kale, clawed a throat. "You always were weak," Maddox hissed. Too human. Kale smiled. No, just more wolf than you ever were. He twisted and drove his claw into Maddox's heart. The spell shattered. Light poured from the altar. Maddox screamed, not in pain but in loss. The stolen bonds unraveled. The moon-bound wolves around the forest collapsed, their twisted forms disintegrating into ash and shadow. Willow ran to Kale as Maddox fell backward, eyes wide, lifeless. It was over. The storm passed. Kale slumped to the ground, exhausted, shaking. Willow dropped beside him, cradling his face. Hey, stay with me. He blinked slowly. You came back. I'll always come back. The moon emerged again clear, full, bright. The forest exhaled, and the pack gathered, not in suspicion but reverence. Mira stepped forward and bowed. Luna. Willow froze. Kale looked up at her, a weak smile, curling his lips. You still sure about this? She cupped his cheek, voice low. I wasn't just sure. I was chosen. He nodded, then passed out against her shoulder, safe at last in her arms. Willow stood barefoot at the edge of the stone ridge where Kale had first warned her to run. Morning light spilled over the forest, gilding the treetops in soft gold, casting long, sleepy shadows across the valley. The storm of battle had passed, but the memories still lingered like the scent of ash on the breeze. Below, the pack moved with quiet purpose, tending to the wounded, repairing the ritual circle, burying the broken remains of their fallen kin. But what struck Willow most was the stillness. Not grief, not celebration. Something deeper, peace. A soft crunch of footsteps behind her made her smile without turning. You always find the highest point to brood from, Kale said, stepping beside her. His arm was wrapped in a thick bandage, his movements still slow, brooding. Looks better from up here, she replied, her voice teasing but tired. Besides, someone has to watch over them. Kale looked out over the valley with her, the bond humming low and warm between them, now no longer strained, no longer pulsing with desperate fate, just present, steady, real. They watch over you too, he murmured. You should know that. Mira said the elders voted unanimously last night. The pack accepts you. Willow blinked. Even after everything? Even though I'm not one of them by blood, you are now, Kale said, brushing her fingers with his. By bond, by battle, and by choice. She turned to look at him fully, noting the silver in his eyes no longer clouded by pain or shame. The guilt over Maddox's betrayal, the burden of leading a dying pack. It had all been reshaped, not erased, by what they'd survived. I don't know how to be a Luna, she whispered. I barely know how to be me in this world. Kale chuckled. Good, that means you won't rule with pride. You'll rule with heart. A breeze stirred the trees below, carrying with it the sound of children laughing, wolves howling in the distance, and something ancient and contented in the air. Willow closed her eyes. I felt something during the fight, she said. When I used the bond magic, it wasn't just yours and mine. It was bigger, older. Kale nodded slowly. The lorekeepers call it the Luna thread. It's what links bonded pairs to the wild magic of the earth. You tapped into it. She turned to him, eyes wide. Why didn't anyone tell me? Because it's rare, he said softly. It only awakens in Lunas chosen by both love and sacrifice, the kind who walk through fire and stay. Willow looked down at her hands, still glowing faintly with moonlight in the morning sun. So, that's it? We're just bound forever now? She asked, not entirely joking. Kale's expression turned serious, but warm. He took her hand, pressing her fingers to his chest where the heartbeat she knew so well thrummed strong. Not bound, he said. Belonging. The word settled inside her like a lantern finally lit. Belonging. She had searched for it for so long in cities, in broken relationships, in books about distant lives that never touched her own. But here, in the wilderness of wolves and war, she'd found it, not just in Kale, in herself. The wind shifted again, and the sky brightened with the full arrival of morning. The entire valley bloomed with life, wildflowers pushing up through ash, birds reclaiming their perches, the air alive with healing. Come with me, Kale said suddenly, tugging her gently toward the lower path that led back into the heart of the camp, where he gave her that lopsided grin that made her feel like the world might just be a beautiful place after all. To the new den, he said. I figured if we're rebuilding everything, we should start with us. They walked down together, hand in hand, passing through clusters of pack members who paused to nod, smile, or bow their heads with quiet respect. A child ran past them, one of the younglings from the nursery. She stopped short, wide eyes fixed on Willow. Then, shyly, she offered a small flower for Luna, the girl said, voice barely a whisper. Willow crouched, accepting it like a crown. Thank you, little one. The girl giggled and darted away, cheeks pink. When they reached the den in earthen, warm space carved between ancient stone and thick roots, Willow stepped inside and took a long breath. It smelled like pine and fresh furs. It felt like a promise. Kale moved behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. You made me fight for everything I thought I wanted, he murmured, and gave me what I truly needed. Willow leaned back into his chest. I didn't come here to find you, you know. I know, he said, but the moon never gets it wrong. They stood like that for a while, wrapped in silence and each other, not needing to speak, not needing to run. Outside, the world turned gently toward its next season. Inside, two hearts once broken, once afraid beat as one under the same sky. A Luna, an Alpha, a bond forged not by fate alone but by choice, defiance, and the fire of love.